Alright everybody, today we're going to dive into the wonderful world of fractions. EA, that's everybody's favorite, I'm sure. Now, let's look at a couple of these problems here. Some of these already have like denominators, some of these do not have like denominators, so remember your first step when you're adding or subtracting fractions, you need to find like denominators. Just a quick review here, this basic one. You see we already have like denominators. You got a denominator of 7. Go ahead and pop that down there for your new denominator. And now just add the numerators here. So 1 plus 5 gives you 6. You cannot reduce that, so you're left at 6/7 for your answer there. That was just a basic one to kind of get our brains back refreshed with stuff you've seen in the past. Now this one has the same denominator, which is nice, but we've got a positive, minus, and negative, so it's incorporating integer rules with this problem. So don't forget, when you have subtraction, unless it's basic subtraction that you could already do, you may need to do your copy, change, switch. Remember, I say copy, change, switch. Some teachers say, I believe in Sparta says KFC, so keep, flip, change. I think in 6th grade they said keep, change, flip. So however you learned it in the past, continue to use the method that's most comfortable for you. So over here, I'm going to copy this down. So this is 9/20. Change this sign to addition. And then switch the sign of this back fraction here for the bottom fraction. And so since it's negative 7/20, it becomes positive 7/20. Now it's a basic problem here. You come back in, get 20 for your denominator. 9 plus 7 gives me 16 for my numerator. Don't forget to reduce down and put in the simplest form if you can. The first one we couldn't reduce down, it was just 6/7. So there's nothing that went into both 6 and 7 other than 1, so it was already reduced. This one over here, you have a common factor that goes into 16 and 20. It is 4. So the greatest common factor there is 4. Divide by that greatest common factor, and see you get 4/5 for your final answer. Let's circle that there. So I'm going to circle this one and let you know it's the final answer. Alright, the next one. You see we've got 12 for your denominator. So we go ahead and put that down. Now, this is 1 plus negative 7. I'm going to write this to the side so we can kind of focus on that a little bit. So think about what you did when you had a positive and a negative with an addition sign between them. You can use counters to figure out what that is. For example, you put 1 positive sign and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 negative sign. You can go back in and cancel out. So 1 positive, 1 negative, we'll make a 0 there, cancel out. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 negatives left. Put your negative 6 down for your numerator. This can be reduced by dividing by 6 on top and bottom. So if I divide by 6 for my numerator and my denominator, I'm going to get negative 1/2 for my final answer. Now, I've done a couple with like denominators. Let's check out number 6, skip down to that one because it has unlike denominators. So the first thing we want to do here is find a number that 5 and 3 will both go into. So in other words, your least common denominator. I'm going to go ahead and bring my whole number over, which is the 1. So over here, the smallest number they both go into is 15. I'll put that 15 for my new denominator. 3 times 5 is 15, so 1 times 5 will be 5. So I'm getting like fractions here. In other words, new fractions with a new denominator, but they're still going to be equivalent to my original fraction. Down here, we got 5 times 3 would give me 15, so 2 times 3 is 6. So we have 1 and 2/5 becoming 1 and 6/15. 1/3 became 5/15. Now we have like denominators, we can start the process that we did before. So this looks very similar. It's a positive minus a negative. It looks very similar to the problem that we had up here where we had a positive minus a negative. So we're going to take the time to do our copy, change, switch. We'll keep, change, flip, all that same stuff y'all learned in the past. I'm going to copy down that 1 and 6/15. I'm going to change subtraction to addition and then switch this to make this a positive 5/15. So now I start the process. 15 is my denominator. 6 plus 5 is my numerator. And then bring down that whole number. 1 plus 0 is just 1. This cannot be reduced, so therefore 1 and 11/15 is going to be my final answer here. Alright, at this point in time, I want you to pause the video, see if you can try these other problems here. So take a second, look over these problems here, and I have 3 more on the bottom you can't see yet. I'm going to move the paper up here in a second and let you pause that one. So for now, go ahead and pause the video and try the ones you see right here. The other three problems I want you to try are 10, 11, and 12. So take a second at this point, pause the video, and try 10, 11, and 12. Okay, let's see how you did. So, for the first group, remember we already did a couple of these together, so you were going to try 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. So you see these were the correct steps and the correct answer for those there. So feel free to pause the video again and check over your work. And then here were the correct steps and the correct answers for 10, 11, and 12. So once again, feel free to pause the video and check over your work. Alright, so we did a couple of problems in terms of just basic computation. Now let's look at a few word problems, see if we can figure out how to solve some of these. So the first one here says Kelly spent 7/8 of an hour studying for a math test. Way to go, Kelly. And 5/8 of an hour studying for a science test. How much time did Kelly spend studying for both tests? So in this scenario here, she's trying to find how much time she spent with two tests combined. So that's going to be an adding problem here. So we'll set this up. We've got our 7/8. We've also got our 5/8. And we're going to add these. So it's a situation where we've got like denominators. So since we have like denominators, we'll go ahead and keep, I'm going to put it over to the side so I don't kind of go into this problem here. So keep 8 as your denominator. Add your 7 plus 5 to get your numerator. So this gives me 12/8. Now let's go ahead and reduce this down. We have a 12 over 8. Now, just a reminder, anytime you have an improper fraction, if you'd like to turn it into a mixed number, what you can do is long division. 8 goes into 12 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract, you're left with 4. So since 8 goes into 12 one time, that is going to be your new whole number. Now the remainder over here becomes your new numerator, 4. And then 8 stays as denominator. 12/8 is the same thing as 1 and 4/8. Now we can reduce this down again by dividing by 4 for our numerator and our denominator. And that's how we get our final answer here of 1 and 1/2. For our next problem here, it says Bill ran 7/10 of a mile and Andy ran 4/5 of a mile. So how much farther did Andy run than Bill? So how much farther is going to be suggesting a subtraction problem here to find out the difference between the two distances. So talking about Andy running the furthest, so we'll have our 4/5 and then subtract our 7/10 from that. This one we do not have like denominators, so let's go ahead and find our least common denominator. A shortcut I always told my students in the past is if you have two denominators that are different, see if the small denominator goes into the bigger denominator. And if it does, use that bigger denominator as your new denominator. So since 5 goes into 10, use 10 as your new common denominator. Over here, 10 times 1 is 10, so 7 times 1 would be 7. Up here, 5 times 2 is 10, so 4 times 2 is 8. Bring over my subtraction sign. And now we go ahead and have 10 for our denominator. 8 minus 7 is 1. We cannot reduce this, so therefore 1/10 is our final answer. Take a second. I'll move this up and let you try these 3 word problems. So feel free to pause the video and try these 3. A little hint, if you get stuck on using fractions, you don't have to use fractions. I've had people complete this worksheet in the past and use decimals for some of these word problems back here. So if you feel more comfortable with decimals, that's also something you could use here. Either way is fine. Take a second and pause this video and try some of these problems. Alright, let's see how you did. So here are the correct steps and answers to those problems. And remember, like I said, you could turn these into decimals if you'd rather use that method. So either one would be an acceptable answer. So take a second, pause this video, look over the steps, and see how you get on. concludes our little lesson here on adding and subtracting positive and negative fractions. I'll see y'all later.